Hey everybody, Evan here. Got my yoga ball chair. It's really bouncy, so I like to sit on this during the day instead of a hard chair. I'm really excited because in this episode of Quarantech, episode number 4, we're going to be talking to Greg McDowell, who is one of the newest additions to the BIM team at HMC within digital practice. He's the BIM manager in our Phoenix office. We actually met on Twitter, and that's actually how we got connected so that he got hired at HMC, so that's a super cool thing. We're going to jump into his dining room, I think, because I think that's where his Phoenix office is today, working from home. I wanted him to share some of the cool things that he's doing behind the scenes in Revit to make it work smarter for us. I think that there's some pretty cool he's really getting in there and tweaking some really interesting things so that Revit can do a lot of the work that we don't want to do so that we can focus on some more important things. So let's give Greg a call right now. Well, good to see you.
You as well. I'm not looking at you. I just say it.
That's okay. You know what I look like.
I see that picture. How old is that picture?
Which picture?
Picture on your...
Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is totally a thing. Everybody has a picture of their younger selves on their online presence. I mean, that's just how it is, right?
Yes. Have you seen the one that I use occasionally?
Yeah.
On Twitter?
Yeah.
I think it's Twitter. Me as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm like 6 or something.
Yeah, I've got one of those too. I'm trying to think. I could pull it up later, but yeah, it's fun to go back and look through all those. You know, when we actually have, you and I, we actually have shoe boxes full of pictures.
That's true.
Well, let's jump into this, man. So maybe this is the first time many people are seeing your face. I mean, you work out of the Phoenix office. Like, give a short intro, maybe a little bit of your origin story, at least to HMC, how long you've been here, what you're doing, and then maybe what you've done since you got here.
Okay. So I'm Greg. I work out of the Phoenix office. I'm BIM manager out there, helping the local team get better with Revit, as well as working with Nancy and the rest of the digital practice team to make improvements across the firm. I've been working a lot with Sacramento lately as well on a couple of the projects out there, trying to get them squared away and help them out. I've been with HMC for just a few months now. It's just started in February,
right?
1st of February. So I was only at my desk for maybe a month before I got to sit at my dining room table for the next month or so. I'm a BIM nerd through and through. I love it. I'm always trying to find the better way of doing something. It comes from many years of doing AutoCAD. So I was a big AutoCAD nerd before now, and always looking for there's got to be a better way. There was a joke someone once told me: if you want to find the better way of doing something, ask the laziest guy in the room because he probably figured it out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it might be me. It's like I don't want to do this. Is there a better way?
Oh man, that's awesome. So you and I share a few things in common, but one of those things is the gray hair, right?
Yeah.
And so
I'm getting
what I thought it would be fun to do is to go back, do a little tech nostalgia here. And do you remember your first kind of online experience? Because I think what we could title this episode "Thank God for the Internet," because if we didn't have what we're doing, if we didn't have the tech in place to do, there was no way. Like I tweeted out yesterday, I think imagine if we were doing this on dial-up. So take us back, Greg, to some of your early experiences with internet.
Gosh, with internet, you're making me go the way back machine.
Yep.
I think one of the first times I remember. I don't think it wasn't an internet back then. My dad was. My parents both worked for Southwest and Bell. We had a computer at home. I think it was an Apple IIc, or maybe we had a Fat Mac for a while, one of those little cute Macs.
Right.
And he would pull out a credit card, a thick credit card, and press a button and give a special code. He typed that into his system, and then it would connect to the server, what we would call the mainframe back at Bell, and that's how he would do remote work. And that was the first time the idea of working remotely over distance digitally was the first time I ever saw it. I don't remember really the first time thinking about going online. It feels like I've always been online. Maybe that's why it's hard to remember.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been pretty connected. When I first got on dealing with Autodesk products, I was on Augie, the Autodesk users group, and I was big on there for a long time, and I was just constantly on that site for a while.
Yeah. Man.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
What about you? When was the first time you saw it?
I think the first time that I really remember was using AOL, right? AOL,
okay.
America Online. You've Got Mail, and it was, I think, early internet, which really it wasn't really internet, but it was these online communities, right? So you had CompuServe, you had AOL, and there was a few other ones, but AOL was the one. I remember the chat rooms, and there was people who used the same 3D software that I did back in those days, and we would go in and talk about, best tips and tricks and sharing, and it was pretty cool. I honestly felt like it was talking about remote work and talking about collaboration and sharing. I mean, that was the birthplace of that kind of stuff. And then I did graduate to the internet. And what's funny is when I was a student at Cal Poly Pomona, I think the year was 94, I started building websites. I remember I had a teacher there, and we had an interactive digital media class, and we had to build some rudimentary websites, and that really set me off, and I learned how to code HTML, and then after that, software started coming out that helped you code HTML better. It automated. That, to me, that's the early automation stuff, right? It's coding, but then it was like software with routines built in that did things faster for you, so I could build websites. And I ended up building HMC's first website in 1994, 95, because I was an intern at HMC. And I ended up building 2 more after that. They were completely different and way better because things were happening so quickly back then. It's funny because people don't even build websites anymore, right? People have Facebook pages now, or whatever, or they have an Instagram account. So I think I still have a website, and I don't use it a lot, but I do have stuff there, and I always felt like it was a really neat thing to be able to have your own platform that lived out there that people could find and look through and get tutorials and advice and stuff like that. So long story, but yeah, I just thought it would be fun to do that since we've been doing this for so long, and just go down nostalgia road
thinking
there.
About some of what you just said, I remember in high school, I tried to teach myself basic programming.
Yeah.
And that was rough. I thought it's basic. It can't be that hard.
Yeah.
Right? But no, basic is just a name.
Yeah.
It's every bit as robust as any other language back then.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. I was kind of lost with it.
Yeah, that's
actually
awesome.
I couldn't even get a job when I got out of school because I didn't know AutoCAD. When I was in school, AutoCAD, let alone Revit, wasn't even around. Not even on someone's head. Neither was SketchUp, right? It was just AutoCAD, and it was just something over there. Some people did in the computer lab hadn't made its way over in the mainstream yet, and I didn't feel a need to use that as one of my electives. But when I came out of college and started looking for work, everyone said, "Do you know AutoCAD?" No, but I'm a fast learner. There's the door. So eventually I'm like, all right, I gotta learn AutoCAD. And then, boom, there you go.
Wow. So okay, so that's old school stuff. What are you working on now that you could share with kind of HMC at large? Now that they've seen you, they kind of see what you're doing. I know that you're kind of taking over the ownership of our template. You're working on the add-ins, the applications that all kind of surround and complement Revit. So give it, maybe share something that you think people would be interested in nerding out on the tech side of what you do.
So yeah, I'm taking over the template as soon as I get it out of another resource. We have been using the newest template on some of the projects, and as we were helping to put the projects up on BIM 360 and some various questions have come up, I've been poking around a little bit, and I've noticed a few things that I think might one thing in particular that might really benefit people. And I'll share my screen to show you that in just a second. So one of the things that I've noticed from exploring projects that we have ongoing is how we've been using the new template, and in particular how we've been using dealing with Revit links. And normally for every project we've done, we would link a new file. We just go to link Revit, pick our file from the server, or in this case from BIM 360, and go. And we'd link in half a dozen files or so, and then we would have to, in each view or in each view template, we have to remove the levels and grids and scope boxes and reference planes and anything else from the linked file so they don't show up in our views. And the new template has placeholder links to facilitate that and make it a lot easier. So rather than making a new link each time, we're going to go to Manage Links and select one of the predefined placeholder links, perhaps mechanical equipment, mechanical placeholder. And then we're going to just reload from and then pick the file on the server or on the BIM 360. And what this is going to do is it's going to affect all of the view templates that are in use in the project that have the linked shared levels and grids already removed. So by using the placeholder links instead of linking it yourself, you're going to save yourself a lot of time removing the levels, grids, reference planes, scope boxes, etc. from your views. It's going to save a ton of time on that.
Yeah, because all that is super tedious, especially like you said, if you've got multiple files that you're doing the same thing on. This is just doing it for you. It's all built in.
It's all built in. It's all ready to go. In addition, I don't know how far we've taken it, but we can also start talking about, okay, we never want to see structural stairs, for instance. So we could have in the view templates, we can have the structural stairs removed from that view automatically. So there's a lot more we can do with it as we get more comfortable with and start to decide what really needs to stay and what really needs to go. Mechanical is another great example where if our view is set to coarse, we're only going to see a single line for all of their mechanical equipment.
Right.
We need to set to at least medium to see everything. And so we can have that set up in the view template by linked so that it automatically displays the way that it should. Again, saving a lot of people time, whereas the mechanical, whereas the structural, and it's all just there for you, ready to go. Do it once instead of doing it 100 times.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what other cool stuff do you have Revit-wise that you want to share with people?
Well, I have some. I've been exploring how to do code plans and code analysis in Revit. I can share just the highlights of what it looks like at the back end.
Yeah,
it's still a work in process. So let me pull this up.
And you guys are in Phoenix, Arizona. Are a lot of HMC offices in California. So again, there's going to be differences there as well.
Yes, the stuff that I've been focusing on is allowable area, occupant count, egress, and plumbing fixtures. And so I don't know California code. I've been starting to look through it and understand it. At least in those areas, it looks like it's almost a direct copy of the IBC,
right,
which is what all of this stuff is based on. So hopefully it'll be a lot closer than further apart, and there won't have to be two very separate ones for this part of the code. I know that for ADA clearances, which we have embedded in the new door families, I believe there is a difference between what happens in California and what happens over here in Phoenix. So we might need to have a separate set of clearance zones that are applicable for work in that state versus here.
So what's the point of doing all this in Revit? Why would you want to do this in Revit?
It's to make all of it faster, to make it to connect it to connect the outcome with the income, the input, the output with the input. How I've done it before I used it in Revit is I would take all my areas and I take it into Excel and I do a bunch of work in Excel and then the design would change and
they're not linked.
They're not linked. They're not connected, and right. I don't know. As soon as you hit print or export, your data is now old, right?
Yeah.
Because people are continuing to work on the project,
right?
And so, how do you ensure that the information is correct at the end? And so, I was looking for a way to make it simpler, automate it, so that there were fewer steps involved, and that it was connected to the model geometry and updated in a more in a more automatic way, keep it all the same system.
And I would even go like further to say, like, step back and say, like, this is BIM, right? This is the I in BIM, and this is why we're doing it, is so that that data is living, like you just said, and therefore, like, use the computer for what it's really good at, and capitalize on that so that we can spend more time doing more interesting, more architectural things, right? I think ultimately a lot of the goals of automating a lot of these low-level tasks that are very calculated, and it is so that we don't have to do it. Like, it doesn't mean we can completely rely on those. We still need to check them. We still need to manipulate based on the design so that it goes the direction that we need it to go. But a lot of that work gets done, and we don't have to worry about it.
Right, exactly. So I have one for allowable area. And this is a project that I was working with Amy Braun on to try to see if I could get close to or match what they had done. We didn't. It's however, the code we're managing that project is a little different than what I was used to, and different from how the code plans are. So there's still some brain power to do. The idea here is that there is one place to go to enter in information about your sprinkler and what kind of construction you're going to be doing on the project. And then it's calculating actual floor areas. You place some objects in the model, and it calculates your grade plane elevation so you can get your average height, to do allowable height in stories, allowable height in feet. It's pulling information from the model and then comparing it back to tables that are entered from the code. So, for instance, this is the occupancy key table from the 2015 IBC. If you open it up, you can see that it's got the what is the occupancy group, and then what's the description, and then things that the actual numerical information about maximum load of the space before you need 2 exits, maximum common path of travel, and then as well as the allowable building height, allowable number of stories, and allowable area factors. So all this is just data that's in a table that you can use the computer to cross-reference and do some basic math on, and then you're going to start getting outputs. Anything that you can put a set of instructions behind, like a baking recipe. If you follow these rules, you follow these steps, you will get this great piece of bread at the end, or cake, or whatever it is you're making. The same thing with all of this. So that allowable area is one. Occupant load, egress, and plumbing fixtures is another. So this one is a little cleaner to read. Every room has occupant load, right? So all you did was tell it what the use was of the space, and rather than typing it all out, it's using a code that ties to a schedule down below, and then occupant load factor, what the occupant load was for the space and how many exits were required and provided. And this is summarizing every space in the building. The next table over here is about common path of travel and exit access travel distance. And this one is not one that I would normally have ever actually used, a whole table where every room has this information, because it's very difficult to get the common path of travel for every room. But there are some automated routines, again, that we can use that looks at your floor plan and figures out how far it is to the nearest exit, figures out the longest route of that, and then can populate the information here. So this is actually, it looks like a lot of work, but it's really one button and go get a coffee.
That's awesome.
You're done.
So a lot of this stuff is like you've got all this stuff built in the back end. People will put in some customized, obviously there's the custom floor plan, but maybe there's some custom project information that they would put into a couple of your tables. It feeds through this and spits out some results that then you can use to make design decisions. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. And to document them. So you're making design decisions as well as getting it documented at the same time. So when you're calculating your restrooms, it's both how many you need from a design standpoint, and as well as we're going to go ahead and get it ready for documentation as well.
Cool. And what's neat about this, I think, is that this is all inside of Revit. This isn't Dynamo. This isn't a third-party application. Like, you've kind of gone through and done all this in Revit. I think it would be cool to do another episode sometime and show some of the neat things that you've done with Dynamo, that, the different graphs that people could run on their project to do custom things right then. But this is just running all the time in the Revit project file.
Right. Exactly. There is some user interaction. You have to tell each space what its occupancy group is, and a couple other user manual inputs. And as you said earlier, we like to play with the code. So some of the information isn't like the occupant load for a room isn't exactly the square footage divided by the occupant load factor. There's a manual entry to allow you to say, yeah, we're going to change that because this room is special for some reason. And so it allows a lot of flexibility as well.
That's cool. That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing that. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
I think that's probably good for now.
Cool, man. Well, have a nice day in Phoenix, sheltering in place, and say hello to the family. And we'll see you next time. See you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that was a fantastic conversation with Greg. I'm really excited about the stuff that he's doing in Revit for our team at HMC. One of the cool things is now that we're all working from home, Greg is actually more of a firm-wide resource. He's helping people all over the place, like you heard him say. He's helping people in Sacramento office as well. I'm really happy that Greg has joined our team. Again, we met on Twitter. You could follow him on Twitter if you need more Greg in your life. I'm gonna put a little graphic, how about right here on the screen. And you can follow that name on Twitter if you want a little bit more Greg in your life. All right, so that's it for this episode of Quarantech. We'll see you next week, hopefully. We'll see what happens. I think it'll happen. Next episode of Quarantech, trying to do this on a weekly basis. So in the meantime, subscribe to the channel right here so that you know when the next one comes out. Hit the little notification bell next to that, and it'll make sure that you get notified when the next one comes out. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you next time.